Hello and welcome to the latest edition of The Interview. You're watching France 24. Today we're going to talk about Libya, a country that is still bitterly divided 5 years after the revolution, 5 years after Muammar Gaddafi's downfall. Today our guest is Mohamed Dayri, the Libyan foreign minister. Mr. Dayri, you're the foreign minister of only one half of your country. You're the foreign minister of Eastern Libya. In Western Libya, in Tripoli, there is a rival government, one that is supported by the international community, one that was formed after talks sponsored by the UN. Still, you don't recognize this government in Tripoli. Why?
I'm not the one who doesn't recognize the government of national unity that has been proposed by the Presidency Council last February. After a first attempt, I must say that on the 22nd of August, the Chamber of Representatives in Tobruk had also rejected the second formation that was proposed by the Presidency Council. We are still looking for the next proposal that would be made by the Presidency Council, and we look forward to a national unity that would be effective after the submission of this government. We need a real government that would represent all Libyans, and what has so far lacked is that the government that was proposed didn't include everybody, whereas the emphasis that has been put by the international community and first and foremost by Libyans themselves is to have a government that would be inclusive of all the political and military forces that have prevailed in the country.
But as you said, the parliament in the eastern city of Tobruk recently voted once again against this unity government. And according to the EU, the president of Tobruk's parliament, Aguila Saleh, is blocking peace efforts, and the EU extended international sanctions against Aguila Saleh recently. Do you really believe political leaders in eastern Libya are open to discussion?
Yes, political leaders, and first and foremost Mr. Aguila Saleh himself, has been very open to discussion aimed at overcoming the obstacles that have so far prevailed. Last July, and at the end of July, the government of Egypt has convened a session between President Aguila Saleh and President Siraj. Recently, at the beginning of last month, Mr. Aguila Saleh had met Mr. Martin Kobler, the UN Special Representative in Libya. All of these encounters have focused on the need to bring about a political solution to the stalemate that unfortunately has crippled the country so far.
Now let's talk about Field Marshal Haftar, the strongman of eastern Libya and the most prominent figure there over the past few years. Until recently, he was known as General Haftar, but he's been promoted recently. Despite the ongoing talks overseen by the UN, despite very strong criticism from Western countries, last month, General Haftar invaded the oil crescent in central Libya. It was taken in a few days to a local armed group. Do you think Khalifa Haftar was entitled to do that?
Indeed, Libyans have cheered this move of the Libyan National Army, despite some reservation and I would say even opposition from certain nations abroad. Libyans have welcomed this move, and the first one who has welcomed it and moved forward to heed the prerequisite of a good and smooth running of our oil operations in the central of Libya is the CEO of the national oil company, who hailed the action of the Libyan National Army headed by Marshal Haftar, and he went to the oil terminals to start moving ahead with the oil exports. We have to recognize that after this move, Libya is back to the export of about 500,000 barrels a day, whereas in the past, because of the mishap that have prevailed and the blocking of Mr. Jadran ahead of a militia that has crippled the oil exports so far.
Let's remind Libya has the biggest oil reserves in Africa. Haftar says he has liberated the oil fields and the terminal. He gave, you said it, his green light to the national oil company to start exporting again. However, it's no mystery that Haftar now has more leverage than ever, and he doesn't sound like he's looking for compromise with Tripoli. Just a few days ago, he said Libya needed a strong military leader. Does that sound like he's willing to climb down in future negotiations?
In the same interview with the Associated Press, he said that he would look forward to a new proposal that would be made by the United Nations. So far, we have had some restrictions that have been imposed on the Libyan National Army and its sacrifices that we have witnessed in the last couple of years after the Dignity operation. Indeed, we have more than 5,000 martyrs who died in fight against Daesh and other terrorist groups that have prevailed in the city of Benghazi. So General Haftar and we Libyans, we would like to have an independent military institution, a Libyan National Army that would contribute to the reestablishment of security in the country. I must hail alongside many international participants in that meeting, I must hail the outcome of a meeting that has not been talked about profusely in the past, a meeting that was hosted in Tunis on the 8th of September by the United Nations, and many army leaders from all walks of the military life in Libya came out in Tunis and have agreed on the principles aimed at reestablishing a strong national army that would contribute to the smooth running of a state that would be governed by the rule of law.
But again, Mr. Dayri, sorry for insisting, but you've probably met Khalifa Haftar on many different occasions. Isn't it obvious that this man sees himself as the potential leader for the whole country? Is it obvious to you?
Marshal Haftar, on several occasions to Libyans, has said that if there had been a pressure from the Libyan communities to present himself to elections, he would do it. I think he might be presenting himself to potential presidential election that we would witness in the future after the end of this transitional period that has been crippled by this infighting, this civil war that we witnessed between 2014 and 2015.
Does that mean that he would never take power without being elected by Libyan citizens?
He had 3 no's in a famous interview last April to one of the Egyptian magazines. No to a military council, no to the partition of Libya, no to the split of Libya, no to a military coup. He had said it. And many had tried to demonize General Haftar in the past. But one has to say that increasingly he has gained popularity, not least because of the move of the Libyan National Army towards the oil crescent in last month.
Let's get back to that. Now that Haftar's troops hold the oil crescent, some fear an open confrontation with the West. For example, brigades from Misrata are fighting the Islamic State group in Sirte. They're supported by Tripoli, and their positions are very close to Haftar's troops' positions. Do you think clashes could erupt between Haftar's forces and forces loyal to Tripoli?
Our national agenda would lead us to avoid this kind of confrontation. I must say that last June, Marshal Haftar and more recently in his interview to the Associated Press, to a Russian news agency Sputnik, he has hailed the fight of our brothers in Misrata against Daesh in Sirte. On one hand, on the other hand, he is mindful of the need to give a hand to our brothers in Misrata and others from the south and from western Libya who would like to agree on the need to have a rule of law reestablished in Libya.
Mr. Dayri, you're already under a lot of pressure in Benghazi, for instance, where you're fighting Islamist groups. Do you have the means to run a much bigger part of the country, namely the oil fields, where local militias are very present?
Yes, the Libyan National Army has regained control of the oil crescent, and I wouldn't think that there are other militia that can regain that control. Libyans are behind the Libyan National Army on the need to have a smooth running of the oil operations by the Libyan National Corporation with no interference from militias or from anybody else.
Mohamed Dayri, thanks for being with us. And thank you for watching this edition of The Interview. Stay tuned on France 24.